Hello and welcome to Studio 311. I'm Bo Sheridan.
And I'm Larkin Holtzman. Halloween is right around the corner and millions of Americans are searching for the perfect costume.
Some people dress up as athletes while others wear animal costumes, but Google Analytics has found that some of the most popular costumes are inspired by movies and television shows. Let's send it over to our film correspondent, Connor McIsaac, for more. Falling right outside of Fright Guy's top 10 most popular Halloween costumes is the Joker, from the new film starring Joaquin Phoenix. ABC News tweeted that Joker collected a record $93.5 million in its first weekend in U.S. theaters, becoming the biggest domestic October film launch in history. Worldwide, the film is now nearing a $700 million gross. Here is a short look at the record-breaking film. Wow, Larkin, seems pretty scary. Would you go see the Joker?
I think I definitely would. Looks really good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Studio 311. We'll see you next time.
Hello and welcome back to Studio 311. I'm your host, Bo Sheridan, and today we are joined by Katie Datz, Vice President of External Relations at Omicron Delta Kappa here in Lexington. Katie, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Katie, first off, could you just explain a little bit about what ODK is and sort of how it was founded?
Sure. So ODK is a National Leadership Honor Society, and we were founded here at WNL in 1914, actually right in Reed Hall, by 15 faculty and staff members who got together with students and saw a need to recognize leadership on campus beyond just scholars. They wanted to recognize students who were leaders on campus in 5 phases, the 5 phases of campus life that they defined as scholarship, athletics, campus service, campus or community service, arts, and then communications.
Very cool. And so could you just describe a little bit about what your role is at ODK?
Sure. So my job at ODK is I serve as the Vice President for External Relations, which you just said. Yes. In that capacity, I oversee all of our fundraising, all of our stewardship and donor relations. I serve as Secretary to our Board of Trustees, and then I oversee all of our communications. So that includes our Circle magazine, which we produce 3 times a year, and it features member profiles and things like that.
Let's go live to Bo Sheridan to see what fashion trends students at WNL notice as the seasons change.
You're live on the campus of Washington and Lee University with senior Banks Flager. Banks, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Today we'll be talking about fall fashion at Washington and Lee. Banks, what are some of the trends that you see when fall comes around in terms of fashion here on campus?
So I'd say in the hotter days of fall, people are wearing khaki shorts and collared shirts around campus and going out. You know, they like to look a little bit nicer, and you see some flip-flops. And then as the weather cools off a little bit and the days are a little colder, you see more pants, khaki pants, still some collared shirts with maybe some flannels or vests or jackets. And then also a lot of boots, Chuck boots and bean boots are very popular walking around.
Mm-hmm. What about for girls?
For girls, you'll see, some dresses walking around, but still also some pants, and they also like to wear vests and some belts you see walking around and going out specifically.
Got it. So for those of you who don't know, Banks is from St. Louis. Banks, what are some of the similarities and differences you see in fall fashion compared with St. Louis and Lexington?
So I'd say in St. Louis, going out in fall fashion, you see a lot more pants consistently. You don't see too many shorts. Also here, you would see probably less boots and more sneaker type shoes. Also here, you'd be more likely to see some corduroys and jeans than I would in St. Louis, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have. Back to you in the studio, Ben and Tyler.
I'm here today with Washington and Lee senior punter, Bo Sheridan. Sheridan began to shift his focus to punting after an injury his sophomore year of high school, and it has led him to becoming one of the most successful punters in school history. Today, we'll take a look at what he does mentally and physically to obtain a success. Bo, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
When did you first realize that you had punting talent and that you wanted to pursue it?
Well, it's interesting. Most punters and kickers nowadays have a soccer background. I never did. I always played wide receiver and safety growing up, and punting was sort of a third position for me. But as you mentioned, freshman and sophomore year of high school, I tore the ligaments in my right ankle in consecutive years, missed most of the season. So I had a decision to make whether or not to continue playing football or not, and I love the game, so I decided that I wanted to continue punting solely, and my head coach was very helpful in that. And once I was able to sort of perfect my craft, so to speak, those last 2 years, I was able to get some opportunities, and ultimately chose WNL to pursue the punting career.
And since you've been here, you've accomplished a lot. Can you sort of speak to some of your WNL accomplishments punting?
Last year I was my first team All ODAC punter and second team All State. So I was definitely proud of that with all the hard work I put in, and set a school record for average in a game against Bridgewater. So I'm definitely excited about that. But it's conflicting because you want to be able to, you don't want to have to play, but you also want to help the team. So I like to help them in any way I can, whether that be being the biggest fan on the sideline or putting the defense in a good position. So looking forward to a good year this year.
And going with that, will you talk a little bit about what the mindset of a punter is? Obviously, as you mentioned, it's a unique position. So if you can just kind of speak to what your mindset is
Sure.
during a game.
Yeah, it's definitely different than most other football positions. Playing linebacker, you have to be instinctual and just go make plays. As a punter and a kicker, you sort of sit on the sideline until your name is called, and so it's a lot more mental. And you have to stay confident in order to be successful, because if you don't have confidence, you're not going to go out and do well. You have to have confidence in yourself as well as your teammates around you. So you definitely have to, you sort of marinate in it on the sideline, but when things go well, usually they'll continue to go well, and you try to overcome the times that it doesn't go well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.